to another Chai Pakoda reading Adda at the long weekend of LiteratureS 2021. With the theme of belonging beyond borders, the long weekend is brought to you by 11 partnering European countries, the European Union, and Belong. I'm Alina Gufran. I'm a writer who writes about female identity and lived experiences based out of Goa currently. And I have with me Tiffany Tavernier, who's going to be reading both the English and French translations of her novel Rossi. Over to you, Tiffany. I just want to say, so glad to meet you. So glad to have you on this.
Hello to all, and I'm very pleased to join you and to read these books that I wrote 2 years ago. And so I started in French, and then I'll read the English versions.
Sounds good.
Let's go. So, Voici, chapitre 1. L'immensité du monde. Sous la voûte du terminal 2E, je l'aperçois chaque jour. À côté de moi, un passager ouvre son PC. Il doit être en avance. Il ne regarde jamais le panneau d'affichage où s'inscrivent les numéros de vol. Flux de femmes voilées, famille russe en errance. 6 japonaises, cheveux teintés roux, sortent d'un magasin Health and Beauty, bardé de sacs Sephora, Gucci, Yves Saint Laurent. Ting, 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 assurez-vous de ne pas oublier vos bagages. Make sure that you have all your luggage with you. Peu d'enfants. Quasiment aucun groupe. L'atmosphère est au calme en ce matin de semaine. Un noir, très élégant, pèse et repèse son énorme valise. Il n'en revient pas du poids qui s'affiche. Affalés sur des chaises, des Indiens somnolent, pieds nus en appui sur leurs bagages. Des hommes d'affaires discutent. La plupart feront l'aller-retour dans la journée. Escalier sur ma droite. J'hésite. Pour rien au monde, je ne veux rater l'arrivée des passagers de l'AF 445 en provenance de Rio. Il vient d'atterrir. J'ai encore quelques minutes. Face à la sortie 8, un groupe d'hôtesses China Southern passe en riant aux éclats. Après, c'est le vide. Comme si cette partie du terminal avait été évacuée. Le dôme du toit immense vient s'échouer quelques dizaines de mètres plus loin. Coque renversée sous laquelle je marche. Voici, Chapter 1. The enormity of the world. On the vault of Terminal 2E, I am aware of it every day. Sitting next to me, a passenger opens his laptop. He must be early, because he never looks at the departing flight screen. A bevy of veiled women passes by. A Russian family wandering around. 6 Japanese women, their hair dyed red, come out of the health and beauty shop, weighted down by bags from Sephora, Gucci, Yves Saint Laurent. Ding, ding, ding. Make sure you have all your luggage with you. Not many children. Almost no big groups. The atmosphere is calm this weekday morning. A very elegant black man weighs and re-weighs his huge suitcase. He can't believe the weight displayed on the scale. Slumped in their seats, some Indians are dozing, their bare feet resting on their suitcases. Some businessmen are talking. Most will fly back and forth in one day. Escalators to my right. I hesitate. I absolutely don't want to miss the arrival of the passengers of the AF445 from Rio. The plane has just landed. I still have a few minutes. Opposite exit 8, a group of China Southern flight attendants go by, laughing out loud. Beyond that, there is no one, as if this part of the terminal has been evacuated. The vast dome of the ceiling runs out some dozen meters further. An upside-down shell under which I walk. The lift doors open. I rush in. Maximum capacity, 26 people, 2,000 kilos. Through the windows that look out onto a grey sky, a Sheraton bus drives on the overpass above the terminals. It seems to be flying. I push the button for arrivals, enjoy the sensation of gliding along, my face glued to the glass. The overpass disappears as it descends. On the lower level, the access ramps becomes the roof under which tourist buses and private vans are parked. I go up and down 3 times. The doors open again. A security guard gets in. Going up? I've never seen this one before. I get out quickly, without responding. At the Espressamente Café, an American is shouting into his mobile phone that he has no intention of returning, that he is certainly not ready to. His voice fades away. He has tears in his eyes. I veer left towards the 16-glass door of a 2E arrivals area. All the doors are covered with an opaque film. Up above, 6 screens display information for each flight. In the middle, a giant plasma TV screen is turned on to the LCI news channel 24 hours on 24 hours. Flooding in an Asian slum, 2 men looking haggard help a family get into a boat. 11 Egyptian police killed in an attack in Sinai. A cook suspected of eating a dog. Yesterday, at the same time, there was the surprise victory of a tennis player whose name I didn't hear. A woman had caught my attention. The doors had slid open. She started to run towards a young boy. They were in each other's arms for a long time, without ever kissing. Which led me to tell the lad that it was perhaps her son. The lad shook his head. He can't understand how I can be interested in such things. They don't belong to me. But then, nothing belongs to us. An exhausted little girl woke up crying in her mother's arms. A Brazilian couple took her photo. Maybe because of a smoke dress. Those dresses, I said to myself, must not exist in Brazil. The couple eventually walked away, the last passengers on the flight following them. That was yesterday. Today, 2 women and a boy are holding up a sign, "Hooray for JJ, the most handsome." There is also a grandfather with his grandson, a few chauffeurs with their signs, and then that man in his 50s, a scarf around his neck, whom I'm sure I've seen before. But where? The doors open. The first passenger emerges. She must be around my age. Walks forward, looks around for someone. She's stunned, not smiling. He isn't there. That's what her eyes say. A group of businessmen jostle her, followed closely by a group of Polish tourists. The flight attendants go by. The tourists scatter. "The shuttle for the capital, please." It's the last passenger, a tall blonde guy, 28, 30, a Peruvian poncho, backpack covered with Save the Planet stickers. I point him in the direction of the Val train shuttle. He walks off without taking the time to thank me. A pity. He looked like a nice person, and I would have liked to ask him a bunch of questions. What's the weather like in Brazil? What about the airport there? In the big waiting area, only he and I are left. The man with the scarf, who is now staring at the ground. No one came to meet him. No one else will come. His hands grip the barrier railing. He can't make himself leave. He stays there, not moving, suspending time. The slightest movement and the spell will be broken. This makes him handsome. Handsome from the waiting that pulls his body towards the impossible. Soon, the flight from Edinburgh will arrive, then the one from Santiago, Chile. I glance at him one last time, hoping to catch his eye, but no. He stands there, motionless. I can only turn back to the LCI image that play in a loop. A shooting killed 7 in a high school in the US. Chapter 3. Chapitre 3. Aujourd'hui, le ciel est triste et nuageux. Dehors, la bise est glaciale. Je réajuste le col de mon manteau, m'emmitoufle dans mon écharpe. D'un pas rapide, je longe les pistes. Une voiture s'approche, je m'éloigne de la route. Si je parle à quelqu'un, je vais me mettre à pleurer. 20 minutes me suffisent pour atteindre le Concorde. Je contourne le monticule au sommet duquel il est fixé, m'assure d'être bien seule, me réfugie sous l'une de ses ailes dans l'herbe humide et froide. Ici, pas un rayon de soleil, pas un cri d'oiseau. Seul, dans le lointain, le vrombissement des voitures de l'autoroute A1. Je sors de ma poche un paquet de biscuits, me demandant combien d'automobilistes partent chaque matin travailler. Des millions, sans doute. Pour moi, c'est trop tard. Ces derniers temps, mes migraines sont si violentes qu'il me semble que ma tête va exploser de nouveau. Ces jours-là, seul le mouvement continu de la foule m'apaise. Chapter 3. Today, the sky is sad and cloudy. Outside, the wind is glacial. I adjust the collar of my coat, wrap my head in my scarf. I walk quickly along the runways. The car approaches. I walk away from the road. If I talk to anyone, I'm going to start crying. It takes me 20 minutes to reach the Concorde. I walk around the little hill on which it rains, make sure I'm really alone, and seek refuge under one of its wings in the damp, cold grass. Here, there's no sun at all, no sound of birds. Just in the distance, the rambling of cars on the A1 highway. I take a pack of cookies out of my pocket, wondering how many drivers leave for work every morning. Millions, probably. For me, it's too late. Recently, my migraines have been so violent that it seems my head is going to explode again. These days, only the constant movements of crowds can soothe me. I look up at the Concorde, bolted to the ground. I'm sure it would also really like to take off again, relive its glory years when it was king. Its nose pointed slightly upwards, its body stretching towards the sky. It seems to be waiting for the departure signal that no one will ever give again. It doesn't matter. It will wait, like that man with a scarf in front of a Rio arrivals door, whose eyes I tried and failed to catch. I bite into another cookie, stomp my feet to warm them up. Sometimes I tell myself that I'd like to stay here my entire life. Anywhere else, the world really scares me. I'm not like them anymore. Was either. There is so much confusion in me. A Singapore Airlines plane emerges out of a cloud. It is so close. I can even see the passengers' faces in the windows. For a moment, it seems to hesitate before finally touching down. I'd like to stand up, open my mouth, and swallow it all, the plane, the passengers, all the countries, all the dreams. Vlad would look at me meanly. Swallow up an airplane? What's next? Sometimes he wants to slap me. I hope you at least bought what I asked to you. He can't stand this love I have for airplanes. Nor my little rituals, like this one, when I pull up a bunch of grass and rub it against my face until my tears mix with it. A freezing wind grips me and I jump up. Nothing like a bit of exercises. I run all the way back. In the future, even the smallest business will be multinational. HSBC Bank, a new world is emerging. At the pharmacy in the Terminal 1, I asked Lucy, badge, for an aspirin and a cup of water. In bad English, I tell her I only have foreign money on me. The young woman disappears for a few moments into a back room and returns with a cup and a pill. An Indian family comes into the store. The eldest child spilled scalding tea onto his brother's wrist. Lucy examines the little boy's arms, explains to the parents through gestures that she's going to have to put it under cold water to ease the burn, then apply some cream. The family thanks her, their palms together and their heads bowed. Lucy blushes. She's just doing her job, nothing more. But the mother kisses her hands, apparently telling her husbands and elders to do the same. Their gratitude also overwhelms me. Chapter 4, chapitre 4. Hier, je suis partie à Naples, Nairobi et Abidjan, m'improvisant tour à tour prof d'histoire, chef de produit L'Oréal, femme d'expat militaire. Femme d'expat, c'était une première, et j'ai été brillante. L'ennui des jours passés à ne rien faire dans la grande maison cernée par les grillages. La peur, la nuit, que des hommes viennent enlever les enfants. La difficulté pour leur faire suivre une scolarité normale. La chaleur épouvantable juste avant la saison des pluies. Les coupures d'électricité. La nonchalance des domestiques. Chapter 4. Yesterday, I was traveling to Naples, Nairobi and Abidjan, becoming one after the other, a history prof, a product manager at L'Oréal, the wife of a military expat. Wife of an expat, that was a first, and I was brilliant at it. Ah, the boredom of a day spent doing nothing in the big house surrounded by fences. The fear at night that men would come and kidnap the children. The difficulty of arranging normal schooling for them. The unbearable heat until the rainy season. The electricity outages. The nonchalance of the help. In Terminal 2E, Vivian, an occupational therapist, massaged my hands. A couple of years ago, she was the director of a mid-sized retail shop. Every 4 years, they transferred us, fearing that we would become too attached to our teams. I still can't believe I stayed there so long. Towards the end of the day, a group of linguists en route to Berlin taught me how to say I love you in Breton, Khmer, Sardinian, and Finnish. At night, I fell asleep much more quickly than usual, but in the middle of the night, my headache returned. Neither ice water nor a few steps outside helped. Desperate, around 3 a.m., I opened my notebook and tried to write few words. Instead, I found myself drawing an indescribable scribble. How many hours did I stay there looking at it? If Vlad found out, he would force me to get help. To hear myself say what? Paraf. A service that enables you to cross borders quickly and independently. At arrivals this morning, the appearance of a Brazilian movie stars caused a stir. Under the flash bulbs of the paparazzi standing on the chairs and tables, her fans descended upon her. Caught unawares, the young woman tried to go in another direction. Then a crazy person grabbed her by her hair. Shouting, movement in the crowds, cops, guards. Luckily, I'm not far from the lift, and I ran into the first one that opens. What a bunch of lunatics! Are you okay? In my panic, I didn't even see him, a red badge without a uniform. He holds out his hands to help. No, not really. He offers to accompany me to my boarding gate. I would so like to say yes. Leave everything. Take a taxi. Open my front door. Read the mail that is waiting. Water the plants. Sit on my sofa. Contemplate the view. Is it okay? Can I read more? Yeah. Chapitre 10. Parfois, je passe d'un terminal à l'autre, ce que les autres SDF ne font pas de jour. La plupart restent sur le terminal 2, puis la nuit venue, dorment au terminal 3, d'où s'envolent les low cost. Moi non, jamais. Soit je décide de rejoindre Vlad dans les galeries souterraines, soit je choisis une place à côté d'un voyageur bien sapé, insoupçonnable, rôle d'épouse qui m'absorbe le temps d'une nuit. Chapter 10. Sometimes I go from one terminal to another, something the other homeless don't do in the daytime. Most of them stay in Terminal 2, then at night sleep in Terminal 3, the low-cost airlines terminal. I never do that. Either I join Vlad in the underground corridors, or I choose a seat next to a well-dressed traveler, someone above suspicion, assuming the role of a wife, which sustains me for a night. On those nights, others join us. White-collar homeless who work in the city during the day, swarms of shadows who here and there grab a place on a chair, a bench. Some have bags, not many have suitcases. I sometimes count more than 80. Shame on their faces. At dawn, they rush off to work as if nothing was wrong. Some nights, I don't sleep. I really like the hours between midnight and 5 a.m. when traveling stops. No one moves anymore. People, airplanes, all asleep. Only a few machines slide around, cleaning the vast floors. Cleaning men and women drive them almost always in complete silence. They have 3 hours, not 1 minute more, to clean everything, otherwise there won't be enough time for the floors to dry, and travelers risk slipping and falling. And so they concentrate steering the machines a bit to the right, a bit to the left, scouring every inch so that everything glistens. Sometimes the moon shines in. The brightness of its rays reaches the still damp floor, and everything sparkles. I wander through the deserted halls, walk along the large windows. Not a single human being anywhere. I am the sole survivor of the cataclysm that has wiped them all out. In the cafes, the shadows of the chairs cast lines on the ground that tangle into infinity and which I enjoy following as if they granted me access to imaginary lands where all would be joyful. On the arrivals level, I look through the windows at the empty baggage pickup rooms. Everything is suspended. It's as if time is frozen. I take a cart, move ahead quickly, and then jump on it. I'm gliding and laughing at the same time. Everything is so beautiful and so tranquil when no one is here. Farther away, on the tarmac, the enormous mass of the airplanes shimmers, immobile. There is no one around them to anticipate the slightest movement. There is nothing left to wait for, nothing left to hope for. Under the clarity of the sky, the non-moving pavements are like abandoned road. I set off majestically upon them.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. That was such a beautiful narration, really.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, I've read the chapters before we got on the call today, but it's just such a different experience, watching the author and listening to the author read it. So I guess I wanted to kind of get into some of the questions. One would be, it's a slightly obvious one. What inspired you to write Wasi, which is a very particular kind of a novel with a very specific setting, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So what inspired you?
Well, it's a very precise thing because I discovered one day, I mean, quite long ago, I discovered an article on which appeared the photo of a very well-dressed woman standing in front of Heathrow Airport, and she was holding a suitcase. And I thought, of course, reading the article, that I would find a story about a traveler. But to my very big surprise, she was not a traveler. I discovered that. But she was a homeless person who disguised herself as a traveler. I didn't know that kind of person exists. And in this same article, I discovered that this kind of person exists in every terminals, in all very big terminals in all over the world. That was quite a shock. And sociologists call this person, this homeless, very specific homeless people, they call them the difficult for me to pronounce that, and the undetectable people,
Right.
the undetectable.
Mm.
So they have a name. And the second very big surprise, which would give me the idea and the desire to really to go and to take this material and to make a novel, to write it, is that at the question, how long do you think you will stay in this airport? This woman that was on the picture, she answered, all my life. And of course you want to know, and I wanted to know, okay, what kind of drama pushes this person to respond to that, to give that kind of crazy answer, and how can she survive, and how these people survive in airports. So that was really the beginning of this subject.
Yeah.
Quite a big one.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. At the heart of the novel, there is a sense of displacement. And it really got me thinking, because in the novel, the character embodies displacement in a very physical sense, because she doesn't have a home and she's at an airport. But now, with the pandemic and the way the life has been in the last 2 years, and this really like hyper connected world that we live in today's world, what do you think displacement looks like for you?
It's a huge question. A huge one.
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, this question, it's the whole stake and the whole paradox of my novel. I mean, because on the one hand, I mean, in a way, no, how can I say that? Yeah, I mean, in this airport, my character, who has lost her entire memory, you know, she's a blank, and she doesn't know where to go, and she doesn't even know where she comes from. I mean, she's constantly confronted to a multiplicity of trajectories and direction.
Yeah.
And that's really the okay. It's a, how can I say? I mean, around her, every single person know exactly where to go, and everybody has really there is a constant movement around her.
Yeah.
So she is moving, but her own dislocation, you know, because she's totally dislocated, and her movements are totally erratic. I mean, she doesn't travel. She doesn't have a direction, so she has to follow this crowd. But who is more dislocated in this world of hyperconnection? You know, that's the big question, because in a way, you know, who, I mean, this question is huge. I mean, the more you connected, and the less you displacement, to my opinion, is becomes personal, becomes free. You know, it's like suddenly in an airport, more than in every place in the world, all your displacements are connected, but at the same time, all these displacements are marked out, are programmed, you know, are planned. And everybody, in a way, you don't choose the way you displace yourself. And it's also a paradox, you know, because you are super connected, and even in the pandemic, you're super connected, but in a way, you are no more in a kind of adventurous research of wandering. You no more take the time to look at the world, to discover yourself. And so she is dislocated, but what about the crowd? We you know, what about the airport in itself? It seems to be super ordered, you know, and super socialized and super standardized, but at the same time lost also. And I think our world is going towards an hyperconnection, but losing at the same time the real sense of what is displacement. Because to displace ourselves is interesting if the displacement offers us to a questioning about ourselves, about who we are, about our own identity. Meanwhile, we are no more. It's like we are following as ships the mark out displacement that I don't know who. I mean, the big brothers thing ask us to follow. I hope I've been clear enough.
No, absolutely. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I feel similarly that our networks are expanding, but our connections are shrinking in some way, right?
Exactly.
You touched upon the idea of memory, and I wanted to ask a question. What I personally found extremely interesting in the novel was that the idea of losing one's memory at a place of transit where all the markers of how you might remind yourself of something are so fleeting is very interesting to me, right? So and you're also cocooned in one place with a multitude of people, and you're constantly being pulled by this endless stimuli, and you kind of write it in that way as well, you know.
Yeah.
So what does that, how does that look for the character? How does it impact her?
Second huge question. I mean, yes, of course. I mean, all this novel is antinomic, as she is a kind of a virgin page in a way. She is totally blank. And this blank first page, you know, of a novel, in a way, she could be the first page of a novel, blank novel. And this blank, I put this blank inside a huge crowd, international crowd. And so what happened to my character is that she sustained herself to the surface by catching and by subcontrast her memory lost to all those stolen snatches that she hears here and there among the crowd. I mean, she recomposes herself um, from this hyper fragmented international multiple material, and she becomes, you know, she absorbed our world, but she absorbed it in pieces, you know, and she has no identity, but she's storing the this amazing puzzle of snatches that, and she makes it, and she it's her way to return to, I mean, to at least say that she's a person. So she's the puzzle. She becomes in this airport the puzzle of all of us. You know, she's all of us. It's what I like. And it's like Pessoa. I don't know if you know the poet who said, I am multiple. I am thousands of people, you know. He was, and she becomes the whole world. And it's a paradox, because she is nothing. She is no more somebody, but at the same time, she becomes all of us, but pieces of all of us.
Yeah.
And this, in fact, I play with it. I play with that.
Yeah, that's what I found so fascinating, just the idea that our own consciousness is being projected back to us in fragments through this character. So it can actually be quite disconcerting while reading it. You know, there are elements of this attention deficit, there are elements of just this detachment that kind of persists through the novel, which is disconcerting for the reader extremely. So you can imagine how disconcerting it would be for the character itself, right? Which brings me to my next question. At the heart of the novel, there is trauma, right? And I wanted to understand, you write in third person, but you are embodying the character's perspective. So, what was the process of writing in trauma into the book? Did you look at it from that perspective, or did you just think about the character and the journey?
No, I love also this. I do love this question, because I entirely write this novel with this idea of trauma. I like trauma. In all my books, my characters goes through a trauma. Why? Because when you go through trauma, you lose all your bearings. And I like really to write somebody who has no more bearings, who doesn't know anymore, who cannot, you know, sustain himself or herself to anything she or he, you know, would be a habit or yes, a security zone. She has no more security zone. So all my book, so these characters and she, my protagonist in this novel, she is totally dislocated, and the writing has to be dislocated at the beginning. At the beginning, for me, it has to be crossed by constantly crossed her thoughts by these snatches, visual and also the visual snatches, and also what she hears.
Yeah.
You see, announcement, what she reads, ads, announcement ads, snatches of memories that she can hear there and here, and the writing had to be crossed by all this surrounding, this enormous bubble of snatches, and it was my way to write it and my process. But the more she gets toward, the more she finds herself, and the more the language of the novels um, take a more linear form. You see, so it's in fact it's quite disturbing at the beginning, but it has to be disturbing because she's disturbed, and then little by little, you get into the writing, and the writing gets more and more shape, and that was my objective. That was really my objective. The identity, just the process of identification shape the language of a novel.
Understood. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. I wanted to ask a little bit and talk a little bit about, how in Rossi as well as Lamy, the central protagonists in your books are ordinary people who possess an extraordinary ability to transform themselves in their life, right? So it is a powerful, timeless emotion. I personally wanted to know, and different writers have different reasons for this, what is it about this particular phenomena that attracts you, and you feel like writing characters like this?
What I mean, I like to answer to, and I like this question of trauma, and I think it's important when you read a book to, I mean, for me, a book without trauma, what is it? A novel. And what is the answer? What is the path? Well, it's not an answer when you write, but it's more like a path. I would say a direction, and the way my characters gets out of trauma, it's a reconnection to magic, in a way, okay, but also a movement towards the other. There is always a meeting. There is always the risk of meeting the other, of reconnect to the other, to love, maybe the huge risk of love, the huge risk of attachment, and so, and the curiosity also. She's very curious. Because she could, stop everything and as Vlad live on the underground in the world below, but she sustains herself in a kind of limbo. An airport is like a limbo, and the traumatic experience is like, traumatic experience pushes you into kind of limbo. You are floating, and you have two choices. One choice is to get out of a trauma, you see, and to come back to the normal life. The other one is to just go towards the death. Okay, now how do you what will pushes you to the light? What will help you? And my answer is yes, to reconnect yourself, to wonder, to reconnect yourself to the other, and to not to consider yourself as the center of the world, also very important, and to widen the gaze, always widen the gaze, and you see, that's my my way my way to think and to.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And that I also find that very interesting because in the recent past, especially in, say, American literature, there has been a huge meditation and a huge resurgence on internal monologue, first person, characters, perspectives, and extremely navel gazing interior monologues, right? And I think that's a reflection of the millennial generation as well, right? Just social media and the kind of world we come from. So it was interesting for me to see that lens turned outwards, right? And like it's almost as if the identification of the self that happens for us through the social media is now happening for your character at an airport, which I found very fascinating. So I wanted to ask, was that a conscious process for you, or is that something you just naturally arrived at?
No, it was both of them, because I mean, it was a natural process, because as soon as I got the subject, I knew that I had that process of identification, because I mean, I got two subjects. I got the subject of her losing a whole entire memory, and I can tell you that writing about somebody who has lost his memory is a huge challenge for a writer. I mean, because she has no souvenirs, so you have to be. It took me a long time to catch her, because how can you describe her? How can you say something about who she is? It's a huge matter, because when I say I have two subjects, I have this matter. Who am I who is my character, and who am I when I lost my entire memory? Which is quite a question. And the second matter is about the way she disguises herself, and the way she looks, because it's a bit, she's one of us, and at the same time she's not. And her look at what we are. So I knew I had two questions: the question of her own identity, but also the questions of who we are through the eyes of someone who is a blank. How does she look at us? What does she look? What does she? It was a fantastic place to suddenly to join. So to look at our world and to contemplate this world, what it is about, this movement. You got this character also, Liam, this real homeless in this airport. The way he's looking at us, and it is the same for her. What does emerges from our world? It's very singular, and it was very important for me to be at this place. And writing it, I sit down for hours, for days, with a suitcase, not moving in an airport, and looking at us.
Yeah.
What's happening when you look at us?
Yeah.
What do you and it is absolutely part of my desire. It was part of my desire at the beginning, and it was part of the process of writing, to be at this, to join this position, and to question it.
Yeah. I mean, there's almost this sort of infant-like quality about it, right? When she's looking at the world at the airport and it's being reflected to us, the feeling that I had when I was reading it, I did not feel pity or sympathy for the character at all. It's only a bit later in the novel is when I was, I could empathize with her, but I never felt pity or sympathy, which I might. So was that a conscious decision as well, to give her that like complete agency?
Yes, because at the beginning she has also, how can you be pity on somebody who has nothing inside, nothing more? She's not in that process. She's like in a sideration, in a total shock. And when in a total shock, you are not in a pity. Pity is socialization. Pity is already something that belongs to I will say, normal world. She's no more. She's no more part of the world. So what happened and I like and I like it, and it's that she is, who is she? She's pure sensation, pure present sensation. You know, the only thing on which she can, how do you say that? The only way she can find herself, she can know about herself, is to question and to feel what she is, what I'm feeling at the very, in the very present. For instance, she looks at her chair, the chair is red, and she feels, and she likes this red color, and she can say to herself, I am this woman who likes this red chair at 2 p.m. today. You know, this is not a place to be of pity. It's just a place of, I would say, of total. She comes back to something that is total. You know, the pure existence.
Yeah.
You know, she comes back to that wonder.
Yeah.
The original wonder of what is the world. Little by little, she'll come back to something, to a story, you know, to a real story. The memory will come back, and then she have a choice. Do I want to come back to something that is a story, and my story, and with its drama, with the pity, with the tears, with the sufferings, or do I want to stay in this floating, marvelous, huge, totally blank world? It's a question important for all of us too.
Yeah. Thanks so much. You see? Thanks so much for that. Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense to me as well. And it's kind of almost like what you said about coming back to pure existence is truly some kind of a spiritual deliverance, right? Which we're all frankly quite far away from, just because of the lives we lead in the world that we live in. Which brings me to my next point, and I don't think you're going to like this question because no writer likes this question, but so I write to feel less alone, quite simply. Why would you say you write?
Yeah, that's I write. I think I write. I mean, not to lose the connection to the huge question, which is, who am I? What am I doing here? You know, you lose that. You know, you have this question inside, but it is so easy to lose that question and to just run and buy things and you know, just lose yourself in your life. Absolutely. And I think writing is a kind of a seize for me, a kind of spiritual, almost a seize, to oblige myself to reconnect myself to this huge question, and to replace myself in front of my own death. I'll die. Who am I? What am I doing here? What is the real sense of my position, of my existence here? And it is, I think, the real. This is why I'm writing.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for fantastic questions. You're a writer. You're a writer for sure. Nobody can ask questions like this.
Thank you. Before we've not got too much time. I just want to ask two questions. One is very much for the audience. And this is something I find extremely fascinating about authors who've been doing it for a while. Quite simply, what is the one or two things you could tell someone who's a young writer or is an aspiring writer?
Okay, what I would say is that a good story is not enough. I mean, to my opinion, I mean, you have so many good stories everywhere. So it is not enough, because you have to catch a story, because it's important. For me, it's important to have a story. But the story has also to comment tu dis merde? I'm sorry. Has to have inside enough material to question the world and to question, you know, it must carry, the story has to carry within it a material capable of arousing a real questioning about our world, about all what I said before. It is so important, and contemporary world, you know, it has to be, it has to get this capacity. So even a novel can't be just a story. And the language of the novel has also to expose us this questioning. So
absolutely,
this is very important. It's what I would tell to him.
Thank you for that. And I'm just going to rush to my last question. If you have any recommendation for contemporary French novels that we should be reading, and I could do with this as well, because I've only contemporary French novels.
Oh, I do like very much a man who called Laurent Mauvignier. I don't know how. Laurent Mauvignier wrote a few novels now, and he's a very important writer. I have so many people in my head. I like, I mean, oh my God, I was not expecting that questions. Who else? Because, you know, you get like, in French, you have so many people.
Yeah.
I can give names like this, or
who have you been reading recently? Who you really enjoyed?
Yeah, I recently loved very much Pacific, Stéphanie Hochet. And I like also her books, and Tanguy Viel. Tanguy Viel is a great also author, and I like Angélique Villeneuve. I like Camille de Toledo, fantastique. Antoine Vauters. I know I'm just, you know, you asked me this, and
it's a tough question. Yeah.
No, but I in a way, it's a good question, but I mean, it's so many people are interesting, actually.
Absolutely.
And it's a good point. In France, we have a lot of Nicolas Mathieu, young authors also, and older, and who are very, very interesting. Very interesting. Really.
Thank you. Got my reading list sorted for the year now.
Okay.
But thank you so much, Tiffany. This was such a great conversation. I hope you enjoyed yourself as well.
I enjoyed it so much. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the beautiful reading by Tiffany and the insightful conversation that followed.